to the Mobile Monger podcast, where we go behind the scenes in the cheese world to chat with the people making, selling, or distributing your favorite specialty food products. I'm your host, Janae Muha, certified cheese professional, longtime cheesemonger, and producer advocate. One of the great things about social media is getting a glimpse into the cheese scenes in far-flung places. While Canada is only a stone's throw from my vantage point here in Seattle, the inner workings are a very different beast in my eyes. That's why I called on my good Canadian friends Erin and Kelsie Parsons to chat about the climate of Canadian cheese and their new venture called the Canadian Cheese Collective. With only 2 meetings as of the airing of this episode, the Canadian Cheese Collective brings together those in the business selling cheese in the upper regions of North America. With such a large landmass, it can be hard to build a strong and robust community system, but Erin and Kelsie are using all of our newfound pandemic tools to build it. We talk about where they're at and where they are hoping to go. All right, I am really excited to have my favorite Canadians. Today, I have Miss Erin Harris and Kelsie Parsons. So let's start with Erin. And can you tell me about your path to cheese?
Yes, it's one of my favorite stories to tell. I started out in the food world, going to culinary school and loved it. Thought I was going to be a chef forever, and kind of still am. I mostly just cook for friends and myself, but I'm a chef of my own kitchen, which is fun. But at some point, kind of decided, no, I don't want to work in professional kitchens for the rest of my career. And the list is long for the reasons as to why. Over the years, you kind of figure out that a professional kitchen isn't necessarily maybe what you thought it might have been, when you were dreaming of being a chef in culinary school. So anyways, after about 10 years working in kitchens, I decided that's not it for me. And I started selling cheese at a farmer's market in the summer in London, Ontario, where I'm from. And kind of got addicted to the world of selling cheese. There's a bit of a rush that can happen, especially when you realize that people like listening to you talk about cheese, and your sales all of a sudden start to grow. And it's like, wow, maybe I'm good at this. And that was about 10 years ago. And it's the best decision I ever made for myself.
Awesome. So what is your current position?
Yes, I have a great job that I probably annoy people about when I tell them how much I love my job and how often I talk about that. I get to sell cheese for Au Terroir, which is a fine cheese distributor in Canada. We specialize in Canadian cheese and specifically Quebec cheese, but we also sell really amazing imported cheeses. We work with different importers, and my customer base is from one side of the country to the other. So I have a customer up in the Yukon and PEI and Nova Scotia, Cape Breton Island, all the way back to Victoria, BC, and kind of everywhere in between except for Quebec. That's where our warehouse and head office is, and there's a team there that takes care of Quebec. And I'm the contact person for the rest.
Awesome. All right, Kelsie, same question. Tell me about your path to cheese.
Hi, Janae. Thanks for having us. So my career path to cheese started at a farmer's market in Toronto. I was shopping for cheese and always buying cheese from the same guy. And then one day he had a sign up saying help wanted. And I was like, that's my dream job. I want to sell cheese. I just didn't know that was a career opportunity. It's not something that I ever learned about in high school as a possible career path at all. But when I realized that it could be, I just fell in love, and that's what got me started. But after that, I just fell in love with every aspect of cheese. I wanted to learn more and more, and I worked as a cheesemonger at farmers markets and cheese shops in Toronto, and then I wanted to learn how to make cheese. So I went to Vermont and did their cheese making certificate program, and came back and made some sheep's and goat milk cheese for a while, and then began working at Sobeys. It's a national grocery chain here, and worked my way up, and I'm now managing and the category manager for cheese for 420 stores across the country. I also manage all of our imports for Sobeys stores across the country too.
Wow, those are some big cheese pants right there. That's for sure. So you all just started a little project. Can you tell me about that? Like, what is it? What are you guys doing? What's going on with it?
For years, Erin and I have been talking about how we'd love to have a national organization where we can connect with people across the country and learn and grow together. And we've both been very involved in the American Cheese Society over the years and really love the camaraderie and the togetherness of everybody in the US. But in Canada, we're really challenged by our geography. We're a massive, massive country, but with a pretty small population in comparison to the US. We have the population of California spread out across the second largest country in the world. So meeting up in person is really challenging. And one of the positives of the pandemic has been video conferencing. And we really saw that as an opportunity to connect with people from coast to coast to coast.
That's exactly it. We just have this desire to see some community build within those of us who are doing the exact same thing across the country. We're selling cheese. We're running into the same struggles in the cheese industry. You know, we're going through all the holidays together, but really apart. There's just this need for being able to connect, and so we're trying to fill that need.
I had no idea that it was that much of a discrepancy between how many people and how large the country is. I mean, I knew that there were less people in Canada, but like when you put it like the population of California, that's a pretty extreme side by side there for sure. So it is called the Canadian Cheese Collective, yes?
Correct. Yes.
And you have had a meeting, you've got another one coming up. What more do you like? What do these look like, and what do you have plans for in the future?
I think we have so many plans that it's like, where do we even begin? And Kelsie and I have been really excited about like the first two meetings that we've planned have come together really quickly and quite easily, without too much resistance for both of us. And the list is long. We want to offer opportunities for people to learn more about cheese defects, for example. Maybe have some cheesemakers on a call one day and talk about, just throwing this out there, Grey Owl is one of those well-known and beloved cheeses in Canada. How is it made? What goes into the process of how exactly that cheese is made? And, on our first call, we got to talk with two different cheese producers and talk about their struggles through the pandemic, their wins through the pandemic, and there's definitely both. We learned what's coming next for those producers, and conversations about where do we go next in the cheese industry in Canada. There's so much that we want to do. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, so one thing that we've been hearing from people across the country is that because of the geographic isolation of some communities, a lot of people feel like they're just working on an island and they don't have that connection with other people. So we thought it would be fitting if we interviewed two cheesemakers who are literally on islands. So we spoke with David Wood of Salt Spring Island Cheese, Daniel Wood, sorry, David is father, and Andrea White from Cow's Creamery on Prince Edward Island, and talked a bit about, as Erin said, how the pandemic has affected them, but also their company history, where they're going. And we had people submit questions. So we had all kinds of questions, including like, what would you recommend for like new producers who are starting out? Like, how can we learn from your mistakes? And how can you provide us with some guidance? And it's just opens the doors to some really great conversations and building of a community. It's a virtual community right now, but we're really looking forward to our first chance to get together in person, which ironically, is probably going to be in the US at the ACS conference in Portland.
Ironically, I will say though, I've sold a lot of that Salt Spring Island cheese because I am not far from Canada. It's only like maybe 2 hours from here. And I have sold definitely a lot of that stuff and it's delicious. So excited to see that they were some of the first you talked to. You both are pretty darn active in the US cheese scene. Outside of geographical issues, what are kind of some of the hurdles or advantages of the Canadian cheese scene, I guess?
I'll jump in right now because one thing on my mind right now is the price of cheese has always been a challenge in Canada. We have one of the highest prices of milk in the world, and therefore it means the price of cheese is some of the highest in the world too. On the upside, farmers are paid well, and we're very thankful for that. And we're able to have much smaller dairy farms than other places in the world. But as of February 1st, the Canadian Dairy Commission increased the price of milk by 8.4%. So when you factor that in with the increase of freight across the country, the increase on packaging, and labor, it's going to be some pretty major sticker shock, I think, over the next year as customers go to the shelf to buy their cheese. Things are going up by not just a few cents, but a few dollars here and there. So one of the things that I think we need to do as a community is make sure that we can better communicate the reasons to customers and add value to that. So they're not just buying a piece of cheese, they're buying an experience, they're buying a recipe, they're buying a little piece of history and the flavor notes and everything to go with the cheese too.
Yeah, I'll just sort of jump in on exactly what Kelsie is saying, and also expand the issues that I'm seeing with working with customers across the country, and the price of fuel. The price of containers coming from Europe has absolutely skyrocketed in the pandemic, on top of delay after delay after delay. Cheese arriving with short best before dates on those softies. And it's the hot topic right now is definitely the 2022 price list for my customers. Will be releasing in the next couple of weeks. There's going to be some sticker shock going on across the country, and there's not a whole heck of a lot that we can do other than continue to offer the best products we can and the knowledge to back them up. Just communicate with our end customer the reasons why.
Yeah, that's 8% that's a hefty increase for sure. Since we've kind of touched on it a little bit, like obviously COVID is a hot topic across the board and we've seen issues everywhere. How has the Canadian cheese scene been really affected by COVID?
I've got a couple of interesting things that have kind of come up over the last couple of years. For one thing, there's been a bit of a boom actually in cheese shops opening. Last summer, I just kept on getting one contact email after another for new shops. Hey, we've always wanted to open a gourmet food shop and a cheese shop, and we finally decided to do it. I can't even tell you how many emails I received or phone calls that started out that way. And, it started to become like, wow, how many cheese shops can we really have and support? So, we haven't crossed over that line of, okay, whoa, too many cheese shops. I don't know if there's ever really such a thing as, but certainly it's been noticeable how many new cheese shops have popped up in different areas across the country. One interesting side effect of people staying within the country for things like their vacations, their annual vacations, Quebec especially, Quebec love their cheese. They eat a lot of cheese, and especially when they're staying home for that summer vacation, there's not necessarily an overabundance of cheese for the rest of the country to go around. So we've seen some really, really interesting sales, distribution issues, production issues, maybe not able to always keep up with demand. It's been fascinating.
I'm seeing very similar things, and similar to what conversations you've had with people in the US. Like at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a real worry that sales would just drop off, and there was an initial decline, especially in fresh and soft cheeses. But then there was a recovery, and people started cooking at home quite a lot more, and you saw like a big increase in cheese for cooking applications. This time last year, there was a massive spike in feta cheese, of course. And
thanks, TikTok.
Yeah,
exactly.
Shout out to Grilled Cheese Social.
So we're lapping those sales right now, and that's just one example of how people have really embraced cooking with cheese at home. And we've seen an increase in local cheese sales as well, which is just wonderful. People are really out there supporting their local communities and cheesemakers.
I love that. In my conversation with Rodolphe, we talked about how when the French aren't out spending money, they tend to spend their money on food anyway, but when they're not out spending their money, they just end up spending their money on better food. So I love seeing that trend, that people are like willing to drop a little bit more money on nicer food. I know I have, that's for sure.
I mean, what else are you doing on a Friday night when you can't go anywhere? You probably opened that bottle of wine that you've been thinking about, and maybe you found a couple great cheeses to go with it.
Yeah. So what is, I know that it's probably different in different places, much like the US, but we're kind of at this point where mask mandates are starting to lift and like vaccination requirements is starting to lift. What does that look like for Canada right now?
It's similar here. It varies by region, but soon enough, we are going to be in the same boat exactly as you are, where masks and proof of vaccination are not required anywhere. So it's scary, but I'm looking forward to seeing some people, but definitely going to be cautious and take my time because I know we're not through it yet. But on the upside, I think people are going to be getting together and looking forward to sharing some good times with friends, and that always involves a cheese board. To me, at least. So I just assume everybody else has a cheese board too. Might not always be the case, but I think people are going to be entertaining with cheese, and I think that's going to be something that brings people together.
Yeah, well, I'm not taking my mask off anytime soon, that's for sure. I just ordered another round of KN95s, and they will stay firmly on my face until I feel better about things. Even if Washington as a whole says no. But Seattle's a little bit different because we still, even when they lifted the mask mandate last year, most people in the grocery stores were still wearing them. There was just those random people who were like, whew, okay, done.
Yeah, I don't think I personally have much intention of not wearing a mask in a heavily populated area, an airplane, an airport, a mall or a grocery store or anything like that, a big sporting event. I'm absolutely still wearing my mask, whether there's a mandate or not. But hopefully what this will allow us to do is support restaurants more than we've been able to here in Canada. It's been kind of a nightmare for the entire industry, not just kind of, it has been. And a lot of them are going to continue to close if we can't get out there and just that part of our normal life resume, being able to meet up with a friend for dinner and not hopefully be terrified that you're going to catch COVID while you're there. I don't know. That's sort of where my head's at right now.
We have to keep that tiny bit of hope that things are getting better because it's been a long slog this last couple of years for sure. So with the collective that you guys are building, what are you guys hoping for the future of Canadian cheese?
So we're hoping to build community and learn and grow together. We're really hyper focused on retailers and mongers, but it's open to everybody in the cheese industry in Canada. And we just want to build connection. And by doing so, we're approaching it with the philosophy that a rising tide raises all ships. And by learning and growing together, it's just going to improve the quality of service, the level of knowledge, the quality of cheese, and it'll be more fun because we're all working together instead of against each other and seeing each other as competition. And we both see that as the model in the US. And we want to replicate that in Canada too.
Yeah, and one thing that I'm personally excited about with the collective is hopefully the ability to have some guest speakers from around the world join us for specialized calls. I kind of think about it like, a lot of people in Canada don't travel to the American Cheese Society conference, or, heaven forbid, it's not available. We can't gather in large groups. I certainly hope that's not the case, but moving forward, kind of like building out that kind of programming that might be part of a conference, but be able to offer sort of deep dive sessions as a monthly topic. Carlos Yesquez, for example, is a friend of both Kelsie and I. We both think very highly of Carlos, and we're both looking forward to hopefully being able to have Carlos on a call one day and talk to us about what makes raw milk cheese, unique and special, and why we need to protect it and all those things. That's kind of what we're hoping with this.
The other thing I'd add is right now, Erin and I are trying to have some topics that are relatable to everybody. They're very general and broad. So the first one was interviewing a couple of cheesemakers. Second one is interviewing a couple of cheese retailers, cheesemongers. And then from there, we really wanted it to be driven by the collective, by everybody involved. We plan to put out a survey and get a better understanding of who everybody is and what they need and what they want. Because it's not about Erin and I. It's about the industry as a whole and doing what's best for everybody.
So I noticed from the social media of the picture that you guys posted about the Zoom meeting or whatever, you had like upwards of 50 people that joined on to that first call, which is a fantastic turnout. I'm just kind of trying to get a picture of like how many people are really kind of in the Canadian cheese world, I guess.
We're also trying to get a picture of that.
We don't know.
On our first call, we were just so thrilled to have 65 people join. And we're confident that the next call is going to have over 100 people. Funny enough, the biggest challenge for us so far has just been sending emails. We sent our first batch of emails through Gmail, and Gmail doesn't like it when you email 100 people at once. So we're working on that. And we know that there's just a lot of people who didn't attend the first session because they didn't know about it. So we're super excited to see those numbers grow and connect with more and more people across the country.
Is there anything in particular that you guys want people to know concerning the collective, or how can people get in touch with you so they can maybe join on the next calls?
Yeah, so we are still sticking with Gmail, even though the first round didn't go exactly as planned, but it is Canadian Cheese Collective @gmail.com. We are also at Canadian Cheese Collective on Instagram. We are totally there for anybody working in the business of cheese, whether it's, farmers who are producing beautiful milk and tending to their animals, to cheesemakers and distribution and, the end monger, the retail shop owner, chefs that have a particular use for cheese on their menus and want to learn more. All of those people are welcome.
The thing I was going to ask was, are you guys recording them so are you guys building out a website so you can like hold the videos somewhere that people will be able to look into them later?
At this point, we just we can provide a link to people that are interested, but we'll see where it goes as it evolves. I think it's really based on what the community wants. And at one point, maybe we'll need an archive so people can go back and watch some older sessions. The other thing I add is this is a completely volunteer-driven organization with Erin and I. We're not paid at all. We're not in it to ever make money. In fact, like we're covering all expenses right now, and we're trying to keep it as accessible as possible for people. So we don't want people to have to pay to join or anything. It may change down the road, but right now we just want to keep it as easy and simple as possible for everybody and make sure that there's no obstacles to people joining.
Yeah, the only thing that we've really discussed in terms of payment at this point is, if we have a special session planned where there's a guest speaker, somebody who really specializes in something, and of course we would want to pay that person for their time. And Zoom is incredible. What did we do before Zoom? Like Zoom has really revolutionized the pandemic life. And so, you can do paid sessions through Zoom, paid events pretty easily. And so that may be something that we look at some point. But Kelsie and I have both sort of said right from the get-go that we're willing to both work together and give of our own time to make this happen, so long as there's an interest and a buy-in from the community. The more people buy in, the more Kelsie and I are going to give to this. I think that's sort of the way we're moving forward.
Awesome. I mean, obviously, as a part of ACS, that whole thing is mostly a volunteer-run organization too. So I am all for giving to the cheese world. I love it. Okay, so I have some quick fire questions that I ask everybody. And the first question is, what is your current cheese crush?
Oh man. Does anybody come on here and go, yeah, that's a super easy question to answer?
Some people do.
Maybe.
Some people do.
Well, lucky me, I just spent a week in glorious California, sampling delicious California made cheeses. And, I should probably just name a Canadian cheese, just, for the whole Canadian cheese collective thing. But okay, how about that? I won't name a Canadian or an American. What I'm going to tell you is that I have been crushing on Rudolph Le Meunier Beurre de Barat, that I scored a couple of sweet deals on at Whole Foods in Malibu. And like every morning I've been waking up and putting that butter on my toast, and it's just like, hello, good morning.
I saw that deal and was like, man,
good.
you scored a cheap deal on that. Whew.
I know. I'm enjoying it to the max. So it's not a cheese crush. It's a butter crush.
Same. In my world, anyway.
So for me, it's a cheese called Wildwood. It's a locally produced cheese made in St. Mary's, Ontario here. It's styled after Appenzeller and made from unpasteurized milk. And it's made by this cheesemaker, Ramon, who is a fantastic cheesemaker. He actually grew up on an Emmental cheese plant in Switzerland. His family is a cheesemaker, or they're all cheesemakers, and he grew up making cheese there and brought his passion and knowledge to Southern Ontario, and is just making some fantastic cheese at Stonetown Cheese.
Awesome. I love it. All right, next one. Favorite cheese pairing?
Ooh, that is tough.
And sorry, I made this like easier on Kelsie because he has time to think about it. And Erin, you're in the hot seat. Sorry about it.
Yeah, that's okay. No, I'm working on a pairing right now. Actually, I'm pairing Parmigiano with cocktails, and we're actually not doing a cocktail for the first one. We're putting it with Lambrusco. if you've ever had, or if you've never had, either way, Lambrusco with Parmigiano is a pretty spectacular match. And Lambrusco, for those of you out there that don't know, you need to know, it's a sparkling red wine that's a little bit sweet. Sometimes they can run a little too sweet, but that's also part of what that pairing, what makes it so special. It's the combination of the sweet and salty Parmigiano, a little bit creamy, the crunchy crystals. It's like match made in heaven.
Delightful.
And I'm a big fan of the classic aged Gouda and a whiskey and Scotch combo. That's just hits all the right notes for me.
Caramely and smoky, and yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so top food memory. So maybe not necessarily like a time you were eating, but maybe, you know, if you cooked with your mother or your grandmother, anything like that. Any just like food related memory.
All right, I'm going to go big for this one because it's just like, I don't know how you top this food memory, in fact, but it is definitely the first thing that comes to mind. Breakfast in the Alps outside of Gruyere, Alpes Molaison, and with the family who was showing us how they make Gruyere over wood fire in a copper kettle. And it's, freshly made sourdough bread with creme de Gruyere, the thick cream that they pull from the milk, and homemade apricot jam. I mean, come on. Yes, of course, there's like a massive wedge of Gruyere on the table as well. And, you take slices off of it, and you can smell the wood fire in the background. And you look out the window and it's the Swiss Alps. Like, is this heaven on earth? Is there anything better? I'm not sure.
Sounds like a dream sequence. Like, seriously.
That's where I go when I need to like calm down and, have a Zen moment in my life. I go back to that Alp, smearing the cream on the fresh sourdough with the apricot jam. It's just sublime.
For me, it's also in another country, in Mexico, in the state of Jalisco. I visited a farmer there where some friends would get some raw milk from, and it was my first time ever milking a cow. And I got to have some fresh milk, just like in a cup, straight from the udder. And it was just warm and so flavorful. And the farmer made some panela cheese right in front of us. And it's a very simple, fresh cheese. You use fresh raw milk and a bit of rennet, and it sets fairly quickly. And you can just slice it into chunks and eat it with bread. And it was just such a delicious, memorable moment. And it'll just like always live with me as a really special food moment.
Yeah, those both sound like a dream sequence. Like, you guys both took me there. I'm like, I'm in Mexico. I'm in the Alps. I am there eating cheese. I love it. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you guys really want to make sure that you get across to people?
I'd say a little sneak peek of our second session. We're going to be speaking with a couple of cheesemongers from across the country. So I'm going to be chatting with Alison Spurl from Les du Fromage out in Vancouver. And she's been in the cheese industry since 1987, when she began selling cheese with her mom at a cheese shop. So she's a real cheese pioneer in Canada. And Erin is going to be speaking with Alex. I'll let you chat further.
Yeah, we've got Alex Porras, who has been working with Fromagerie Hamel in Montreal off and on since about 2007. And he's had some different roles while he's worked for them. But I think, his current role is so cool. He's spending, about 50% of his time mongering, of course, still on the floor, selling cheese a little bit every day, or maybe every other day, something like that. And he's a senior cheesemonger on the staff there. But he recently authored a manual, a proprietary information manual for Fromagerie Hamel on how to be an amazing monger, how to monger. everything that goes into the art of being a cheesemonger, it like came out of his brain and into this book. And I think it took him quite a while to really perfect it, but he's now getting to use that manual to train and educate all of the cheesemongers at all 6 of their locations around Montreal. And, you know, their motto is to be the absolute best cheese store, you know, retail locations in the world. Really, that is their goal. It's really up there. And these are the ways you do that. You know, you continue to push forward and demand excellence from yourself and from your staff, and educate, you know. He's doing it. And so we are so excited to talk to Alex. He's got a lot of information that he's willing to share, which is pretty cool.
Wow, an amazing thing to be a part of. So all you Canadian cheese people, get involved, get in there, go learn some stuff. So thank you guys so much for coming and talking to me about this. And I am really excited to see where this goes.
Oh, thank you so much for having us, Janae. This is an honor for sure.
Thank you so much, Janae. It's so great to see you and speak with you today.
I'm so fortunate to have these fierce cheese advocates in my cheese world, and I'm so excited to watch as they build and strengthen their Canadian cheese community. Thank you, Erin and Kelsie, for all of the work that you continue to bring to the world of cheese. This podcast is recorded, produced, and edited by me, Janae Muha. Thank you to Ben Muha for allowing me to use your music. Follow along on my cheesy adventures at Instagram, Facebook, or get more content at Patreon. My website is also a great hub for all of my goings-on. Thanks for listening, and remember to keep spreading the word of good curd.